Wait, so Jenny, I'm gonna give you a go ahead and go. Start. Awesome. All right. Welcome to the month of June, where we're getting ready to do some really fun and exciting stuff again. Um, COVID has taught us a lot. And, in as much as it was designed for us to now stop everything we're doing and have some challenge, we've now found a way actually to be more productive. And I see that we've done even more activities in the last 2 months than we've done in previous years. And I found that I find it that as my goal, we're incredibly blessed to have amazing professionals who you ask them in a span of a moment and they're ready to come on and help our families. So I want to welcome all of you. Great to see you, Lilia. Great to see you, Aderanke. Great to see you, Sewa from Ghana, our team from Ghana, and also Nick, Stella, Evelyn. It's awesome to see all of you join this afternoon. It's Ghana is 4 hours ahead of us, so we're manning the differences. So Tosin, guess what? You are an international woman. Look at that. So it's exciting. We get to really have both legs or both arms of our programming done, and people are blessed from all over the world. Eventually we'll get to share this as well too, so other people can watch later. But I'm very excited to have Tosin join us. She's agreed to come on every so often. I keep pulling her leg. I'm like, come on. And she's a super busy woman, but yet she's made the time. And so we love and appreciate you for continually being a blessing to so many people. Tosin Adegboyega is an occupational therapist by training. She was here 2 months ago, back in April, and did a talk for us. And she agreed to come back in June and do it again. So we're very pleased. She works with the Staten Island, right? Staten Island School District.
Yeah.
As an occupational therapist. She also does her private practice with adults, individuals with intellectual and developmental disabilities. So this is someone with a plethora of experience and is bringing her expertise to the table. So I want to welcome Tosin Adegboyega again to the My Goal and the Haven International platform as we continue our topic of Ask the Expert series. And she's been really fantastic in terms of helping us to be able to help families. So this is going to be a short presentation, but she wants to open it up to you, and you can ask her any questions from an occupational therapist standpoint and someone who's able to kind of provide input. So her topic today is going to be on let me just get that title correctly. It's going to be the critical role of nutrition in therapy. So that's going to be the element of that. But obviously, if there's any particular questions that you have, we're going to be able to take that from you. So Tosin, I'm going to turn it over to you. And when you tell me, I will share the screen. So if you want to introduce yourself.
Good afternoon, everybody. It's a pleasure to be here again. Like Dr. G said, I was here in April. I kind of shared a few of my knowledge in terms of occupational therapy. And during that conversation, a few things came up, including nutrition, sleep, and a few other things. So this month and today, we're going to be looking at nutrition. But I want to hope everybody's doing well at home and staying safe. I'm not an expert when it comes to nutrition, but over the course of my journey as an occupational therapist, it has become an area where before I see my clients or provide any services, I really want to know, I want to have a little picture of what does breakfast look like for you? What does lunch look like for you? And what does dinner look like for you? And the purpose of that is just to kind of caption what their whole diet looks like. And I have to tell you, nutrition is everything. So Dr. G, you could put up this.
Okay.
Yeah, okay.
Everybody
we'll go to the second.
Yeah, I'm gonna share screen PowerPoint first. All right, everybody can see that? Okay.
Yeah. So you know when they tell you that your backbone, the backbone is what holds up the body. Without the backbone, everybody would just be like a jello. The same thing goes for nutrition. It is the process of providing and obtaining the food necessary for your health and growth. So when something goes wrong with your nutrition, it's just a matter of time. The other organs and the system in the body, they begin to fall apart. A lot of times, and this will sound very familiar to a lot of people, when your nutrition is off, the first system that kind of goes off is your adrenaline. Your sleep cycle goes off, and then you're concerned. But for our conversation today, we're going to be looking at a age group in particular, so that we're not all over the place. We'll go to the second slide. Oops. So we're going to be looking at ages 0 to 6, but that doesn't mean that you're not going to get other things for your children or loved one that is more than 6 years of age. The reason why we picked this age group, or should I say I picked this age group, is because it is the fundamental years. A lot of stuff that happens during this period will go on to affect the child even later on in the adult years, or even just teenage years through the adult years. So if we can get it right at this very crucial age, more than likely the future looks quite promising. So I did, the first thing I'm going to go over will be understanding ages. Then I'm going to talk about the essential nutrients, which I believe everybody knows, just more like a recap. And then I'm going to wrap it up with something called stacking. Stacking, we'll get to that later, but that's what this presentation is going to look like. And I'm going to share some case studies. I might even give some extra depending on time, just to kind of bring you in to see what I've seen over the course of my career, and how we kind of handled it. Next. So babies. So if it appears that I'm looking into book that it's not kind of like natural, it's because I had to take a little bit of, I had to dig in a little bit to kind of understand this age group. I know it when I see it. I work with school age, so that's natural for me. But when it comes to babies, toddlers, and preschoolers, I just had to take some step back to kind of like refresh myself. So if I'm looking to the right, it's because I just want to make sure that I touch on some few things that is very critical. So babies, according to the American Association of Pediatricians, they have this categorization that babies are considered anything under 12 months, and toddlers are 12 to 24, and preschoolers are considered over to into 6. And sometimes they call them school age, even though it's a little bit hard to comprehend that school age is 2. But typically, this is the categorization that they have, just to be able to put in some things that you might see that's typical. So let's talk about babies. One of the things we know with babies is that it's all about calories intake, like calories, calories, calories. We're not particular about texture or any other thing, because the kid only drinks breast milk, and in some cases formula. And so as long as the kid is holding up the calories and they're gaining weight, then that's a sign that the kid is on the path of being healthy and growing. But the other things that we need to know about babies, we do understand that children come into the world, or babies, they learn the world through reflexes. So in the very early years, the kids have a lot of reflexes going on. The suck reflex, which is used, to be able to suck and to latch on and be able to suck onto milk. And those reflexes over time become a motor skill. So if something goes on with the reflexes, meaning that the kid gets stuck and they're not able to integrate the reflexes into becoming a more mature motor pattern, we do understand that the child might struggle. We also understand that through the motor skills, meaning the suck reflex, kid being able to move through space and just being able to coordinate their muscles, we understand that coordination is a part of that. Being able to move the muscle in a very rhythmical pattern that will produce the desired response. Also, we also know that children from 0 to 6 months, at 6 months, we begin to change the texture of their meal. We begin to move them to more like puree. And why is that necessary? We understand that between ages 0 to 6, the kid's digestive tract is very immature. So we wouldn't want to do solids before that time, because we will be offsetting things. Kids will not be able to take in the right nutrients if you try to do that. So we wait till 6 months to begin to introduce solids and puree. There's some debate in that area. Some people want to not do the puree because they figure kids get stuck and they're not able to move through the progression of a meal. But there is nothing that says that when you do puree is the reason why the kids get stuck. I think it's being able to move the kid along the whole process. So we know we move from puree and then we do solids. One of the things that is advised not to do with children of this age is juice. No juice below 12 months. One is, again, because of the GI. So immature, we want it to be fully developed so that they can take in all the nutrients that's needed. Very, very key to this age group is iron. We know that at this age, the kid need a lot of irons compared to toddler years. So there's a lot of iron, like the cereal has to be iron fortified in order for the kid to get the irons in for brain development and just overall neurological growth in general. So that's what's particular to this age group. And if you can just hold on to that, we're going to move to the toddler years. In the toddler years, what we know is that at that point, the kid can have juice, right? But again, we have to do it in proportion. We understand that at this age group, it's not about the caloric intake anymore now. It is actually variety. We want to make sure that kids are being exposed to a variety of texture and taste and spices and things like that, so that the kid can increase their repertoire. Like when kids are very, I'm guilty of that as a parent because I'm very limited in what I eat. Well, thanks to the people that raised me, I actually gear towards, I was very careful what I give to my kids. Well, they're typical, so not a concern, but they could do better. I raise this because if you're looking to have a dynamic eater, so a child that's very, very, very free and very diverse in terms of what they eat, you have to do it at this crucial ages 12 to 24 months, leading to 6 years of age. So that's why they say just have them explore. Or as a parent, what you want to do at this crucial phase is provide anything and everything, as long as it's not something that is prone to allergies, and just have the kid in so many ways get creative with food. The kid will explore and eventually they will take it in. They don't care, they don't know, they're gonna eat whatever you present before them. So this is that point where you want to try a variety of textures. You want to increase that. Think about increasing the vocabulary. Yeah, in terms of food, you want to increase that at this very crucial age. So variety is key at this age. Baby years, it's all about caloric intake. We want to make sure the kid is getting weight. In toddler years, growth slows down. They don't grow exponentially like they do when they're babies. When you see a 2-3 year, you could barely tell the difference, and that's just because at that point the kids grow only at a very minimal age. Iron intake is about 7 grams at that point. So you're still giving them the iron, you're giving them vitamin C to be able to absorb the iron and things like that, but you're not overloading them with irons. It slows down. Again, key to this age is scheduled training. I know you're doing it in the baby years, but at this particular age, it's the toddler years. Kids, they want to finagle their way out of doing things. It's that age where the kid says, nope, no to this and no to that. So you want to schedule train your kid. Breakfast is just not when the kid is hungry. Our kid takes breakfast at 8 or 7, whatever the time is. They have one snack between meal times. And the kid understands that. Kids are amazing. When you put them on a routine, in fact, that is the way they learn their world. Routine is everything with a child at this age, even much into school years. But when the kids don't understand that breakfast is at a certain time and lunch comes at, I don't know, when mom makes it back from grocery, then the kid is all over the place, and then they can really play on your intelligence. I don't want to eat, I'm not hungry. But when you schedule train a child, they just know that this is what we do at a given time. So at this age, we're still doing whole milk up until 2 years of age. But based on the AAP, they recommend that at 2 years of age, that you kind of like begin to wean yourself out of the whole milk and move into more like non-fat or low-fat Um, um, I want to caution you with that because you also want to make sure that as the whole milk is not being given, which we know the kids get a lot of their fat stuff from it, um, that you have other ways that you're sneaking in uh, the fat that the child needs for development. You have other ways you're sneaking that in. So you take away something from one food item, make sure you're putting it back in other ways because you just never know. Kids need a lot of fat. They need it for brain development. They need it for myelination. They need it for just name it. They need it. And so we cannot just take that away from whole milk because I don't know how many know this, but there's a lot of issues with whole milk. I have a personal journey with that, and I will talk about that later. Just that we know that if we win the kid out of whole milk and we're going into low fat, that we have to have other ways of supplementing that with other foods. Um, Hydrate. Kids have to drink water. The cells need water. We can't stress that enough. We know in the baby years, we're advised to not give water. There's some literature to that regards. But in their toddler years, we want to make sure the kids are drinking water. And then that brings us to school age. Now, variety is still the key in school age. Once you follow the pattern in terms of just exposing the child in school age, kids just they just understand it. A good example, I know my kids when they go to school, they tell me some of their colleagues they eat peppers, just raw peppers, and they're like, "Mommy, how do they do that?" And I say, "Well, it's because your mom never introduced you to that." Kids, once they have a repertoire, they just key into it. There are some things that will challenge that over the years. We will get to talk about that, and that's where the nutritional part of it comes into play. Um, like again, I said, consistent. Parents have to be consistent. They have to be consistent in what you're doing so that the kids can learn just that, this is how we do things. Just trust your child. So at this age, it is expected that kids may become fuzzy eaters. It is. They go to school, they see their other colleagues eat that. Oh, mommy, I want cookie for breakfast. You say, no, you can't have cookies for breakfast. So we do anticipate that kids will become fuzzy eaters, but we have to navigate our way through that. And that's where the whole being a detective comes along. Nutrition, again, I say is key. And I'm going to get into why we can't play around with it. I've heard a few parents talk about, oh, the kid doesn't eat when he's hungry. My grandma told me, or my mom told me that, don't worry, you were like that. When the kids get hungry, they'll eat. Now, when the child doesn't eat, we want to know why. We want to get to the root of why the kid is the kid putting the food in their mouth and they become not interested, or is it that they just turn away totally without even exploring the food? We want to know why. And I think this is what this webinar is going to help us. This presentation is going to help us see, as a parent, as a caregiver, as a provider, how do we navigate our way through this path? Because kids will go this route. My daughter at 18 months did this. My younger one much later did this. There were things I did wrong with my 18-month of my first child that I was able to correct with my second child because I had more knowledge. So this course is going to give us that knowledge base to be able to, more like pointers. It's going to give you that direction to know where to turn, when to turn, and how to turn. All right, we'll go to the next page. Okay, I think it's very important that we talk about the essential nutrients that the kids need. Why is that important? So when I asked the parent, what did I like to bring the name back. What did Ariana eat for breakfast this morning? What I'm really trying to figure out is that whatever the child ate in the morning, does it have ions in it? And does it have, is the child's meal filled with vitamins? Do we have fat in it? How about zinc? I know that carbs are great. Of course, give the carbs, but these nutrients are very key. The carbs are easy, I tell you. I mean, you know that. Very easy. Everybody gravitates towards carbs. But a lot of times, these essential nutrients are often missed. So a parent might overload on protein and just totally forget about the fat and just say, oh, she doesn't really care much for eggs. So I just give the milk and um, some other things. So ions help carry oxygen throughout the whole body for cognition and growth. So when your iron goes down, you might have things like brain fog. Kids might move sluggish, or they have less energy. They look pale. There's a lot of things that you could notice from a child with um, iron deficiency. So that's why we have to make sure that our kids are taking irons and they are actually absorbing them. So it's one thing to take it, it's one thing for it to get absorbed. So we want to focus on that. Zinc also for immune health, we need that. Vitamin D, very key for calcium absorption, for strong bones. Alongside to, we want to make sure that it's getting absorbed. It's just not taking vitamin D. It's making sure that the system is actually getting it. Then fatty acids, very, very key, very, very key. I have a personal journey with that. I will share it as we go along. So we'll go to the next slide. Okay, so like I said, as a kid, you as a parent, you keep your eyes open. Baby years, kids latches on, drinks milk, you're following them, and then something can go wrong. So a lot of times when we hear that a child becomes a picky eater, or what should we look out for in terms of nutrition? I think that's the best way to look at it. These three elements of things, they call it stacking, because they go in different, like one leads to the other. Like a behavior is more than likely dependent on the physiology of something that went wrong, or as a result of a motoric skill or motoric ability that didn't go through. So with physiology, what we're looking at, next slide, Dr. G. With physiology, we're looking at things like esophageal reflux concerns. That's what a lot of people know as GER, the GERD. They call it GERD, GERD. In cases like this, what you're going to be looking at is for a child, or whether a baby, in the baby years, meaning ages before 12 months, you're looking at a child who probably has like a really bad bellyache. You wouldn't know that though, but what we see is that the kid is fuzzy, the kid is cranky, the kid is just irritable. You'll be a kid that maybe takes 2 ounces of milk and then they're just full. Mom will report things like, when I feed him or her, can't take the whole bottle or half of the bottle. 1/3 through the bottle, the kid doesn't want to feed anymore. Kids like that are often seeing a lot of drooling because of the build-up of the acid. The kid is not able to hold the food in. So in order to relieve the pressure from the acid, or from the reflux, the kid will probably keep their mouth open. They drool more. Kids like that, they just feeding is not pleasant. So when you see a few things like that, you want to bring it to the attention of your pediatrician. Kids like that may even have their hands in their mouth quite often, because they're just trying to relieve that pressure because of the buildup of the gas. The kid may put their hands in their mouth because the feeling of putting hand down, the finger through the tongue will relieve the buildup of it just gives that enough input that the kids feels a little bit more comfortable. Those kind of kids, you really want to bring that to the doctor's attention. They might be able to get to what's going on. A few things that you might also notice: the kid might snore, a little baby snores. You might notice like wheezing. But very key to that is the fact that the kid doesn't take down that much food. So maybe the kid's supposed to eat around 10. Let's say the kid's feeding time is 10. the kid doesn't show any sign of being hungry. And then about 11 o'clock, the kid is fussy, just bad, just a terrible tantrum. And then you attempt to feed the kid. Now the kid takes the food, one, because one, they're hungry, but also there's a discomfort from the gas. So when the kid takes the food, like about 2 ounces in, the kid the kid feels just right. They're not fully satisfied. They just feel just right with the intake, such that they're comfortable, and then they don't want any more. That's a really, 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 really red flag when you see that, because now the kid doesn't want to eat more, because then they will be more in discomfort. So somewhere, somehow, their body is telling them it's time to stop. And that's something very, very important with kids, that they are built, children are built to just respond to what's stressing them. And we may see that as a behavior. Maybe the kid quiets down. That's a way the child is telling you something going on. So I say, as a parent, as a caregiver, let's look out for that in that age group. For much older kids, because they might have gotten through the baby years having the reflux, food becomes something not pleasant. It's something I don't look forward to, because it gives me pain. So you might see, as the kid gets older, they might finagle their way through certain food, especially the ones that may elicit or trigger the discomfort. And then the kid has been a limited eater earlier. The parent is just picking it up in their older years, meaning that when they're in preschool or just toddler years. But there was something that started that. But here's a good thing: if you're able to address this at a much earlier age, then you're not going to go into the preschooler years having a child that just doesn't want to eat. So again, let's look out for that. Upper lip ties. All right, that one, if you're not familiar with that, I'll just kind of try to explain my way through it. There are different levels of it. I believe about 4 different levels of upper lip ties. It's when there's a little tissue up between the teeth and the gums. It's that little fleshy thing there. When that has either very limited, one is its insertion. Doctors look out for this anyway, so you don't have to worry too much about that. The insertion of that little fleshy thing matters. Sometimes it's too short. When you have too short of that tissue up between your teeth and your gums, that can be a problem. Not always. So with upper lip ties, if it doesn't affect function, you don't have to worry about it, meaning that your kid is feeding well, there's no concerns with feeding. But if the child was born without some kind of lip tie, particularly the level 3 and 4, they have categorization. And the ones that the doctors are more concerned about is the level 3 and 4, because that creates more limited movement. So when the kid has very limited mobility of their lips, what happens is the kid may have a hard time latching onto the breast. So the parent might experience that the kid, after a short period of time, gets tired, and they will let go the breast, or even it's a bottle, because now they are pulling. It's like a tuck. The kid is working so hard to keep a lip closure in order to exert the pressure needed to take in the liquid. So when the kid fatigues, the kid is just going to stop feeding and come back to it when they gain a little more strength. So when you see a thing like that in baby years, so let's say the doctor say a kid has a lip tie, but not a big problem, but as the mom or the caregivers begin to see that kid is not feeding typically in terms of staying on the bottle or on the nipple for relatively amount of time that's expected, and to some extent it's probably showing in their weight gain, then it's something to call the experts to look at and say, hey, do you think I need to be moving in this direction? In more school age, kids that are much older, a lip tie might show up as the kid not clearing the spoon. So when the kid goes in to eat, or even when maybe toddler years, when maybe kid are still being fed, maybe they're not independent with spoon feeding, the parent might notice that the kid doesn't clear the spoon. That's because you need to, the muscle needs to go all the way forward to clear and scoop. And when the movement up there is so limited, the range is so limited, you're not able to do that. The parent may see that the kids tend to pocket food, you know, or not interested in anything that requires a lot of effort to chew, because there's a lot of lip movement in all different planes when it comes to chewing. Maybe they're more comfortable with like a puree, you know, something that is more like applesauce, as opposed to getting a corn and chewing off the comb and things like that, or carrots. Those kind of things are like a red flag in school age. Let me see if I didn't cover something with that respect. Just give me a little. Something pops up, will lip tie. So, you know, for experts, what they're looking at is the mobility of the upper lip, how flexible it is in terms of its range, and just being able to stabilize the mouth. You know, when the kids chew, did they go like that? Or do they really keep the lip closed while they move the food around in their mouth? That's what the experts will be looking at. Now, moving on to tongue tie. The tongue tie is a tricky one, but like if you know where you are, I'm sure you know this, but if you don't, if you move your tongue up, right there's a little fleshy thing there. It's called the frenum. It's what holds the tongue down, with the tongue down to the base of the mouth. For some people, there's a lot of movement there, and for some people, it's very limited movement. One of the things to note in early years as a baby is that with a kid with a tongue tie, the doctor checks for where the frenum, where it inserts. The doctor may say you don't have to worry about it. Kids go on to live a functional life. But when you, as a parent of a baby, you notice that the kid has limited movement in that area, or they have a tendency to thrust out their tongue. You see a kid that goes like that. It's always like they're trying to they're trying to clear their tongue. That tells you that the kid is trying to clear whatever is in there. The kid will also struggle with being able to breastfeed. You could see that the kid will be a mouth breather. They leave their mouth open all the time, like just open mouth posture. One of the things that you might also see is that the kid is a mess eater. When the kid eats, everything's all over. We know, children are growing, we get it. And, in the early years, we're working on kids, we're wiping them out. But over time, it's just a kid that when the kid takes, I'm thinking applesauce. Now we're looking at about 6 months. Kids take applesauce. The kid just go, everything's all over the place. That's something to look at and to see what's going on in there. The kid may gravitate towards a food, take it, and then spit it out. And the reason is they don't have enough movement in that tongue to maneuver the food. So they might just do, it's like a swimming movement instead of more of a lateral movement. The kid's tongue just kind of like, kind of floats place. And after the kid just moves the food around and realizes that I can't propel the food backwards, the kid will just spit the food out. So that's something to look out for. Why is this important? It is important because if the child is not taking the required amount of food or certain texture of food because they're not able to manage it due to whatever is going on, whether it's a GERD or whether it's a limited movement in the lips or the limited movement in the tongue, more than likely the kid is not getting the nutrients that they need. And that brings us back to nutrition. Well, if I'm not getting the nutrient that I need, certain system in my body are under stress. And when those systems are under stress, they will show up in so many ways. Like I said, it might show up, very typical one is the sleep pattern, but the other ways that, um, it would show up. But I don't want to jump into the motoric one before we get there. We might also see constipation. Constipation, it's looking really looking at the texture and the formation of the child's poop and the color. Looking at the color of the child's poop, on the texture, does it break up, does it hold up? Like, I mean, sorry to talk about the poop talk, but uh, what the practitioners will be looking at is, um, does it form like a little banana shape, or we always have like peas, you know? So that's one thing with constipation. And when the child is constipated, which is, you might see a distended stomach, more than likely they don't want to eat, because whatever they have there is not even coming out in the first place. So food may become something they immediately learn that fun is not fun. It's not fun. I don't know what's going on, but this is just not going right with me. And so they might show up with certain hesitance to eat. All right, talking about sensory sensory integration, that's a big one. And as an OT, I could go on and on about this one, because pretty much sensory integration is really the child's ability to take in multiple inputs and make sense of it. So we have a dysfunctionality in sensory integration when the child cannot make sense of the food in their mouth. So let's think about it this way. First of all, the kid has a very limited movement in their tongue. They're taking the food and they're struggling to get it down. All right, now, because they have poor experience with food movement, they more than likely have poor experience with food tasting, food absorption, and overall food itself. So the taste is already out of whack. The perception of what this is that is in my mouth is also off. So sensory integration, when it comes to the whole mouth component, and there's other things, but when we talk nutrition, the child's ability to make sense of this item that is in their mouth in a way that it gives pleasure, as opposed to something that causes pain. So once a child has an experience with food, and the food gives them this sensation that this hurts, that's a problem. Um, I want to stop with that, with nutrition and sensory integration, because we could go on to other things. The smell. Um, how does the kid smell the food? Is the kid able to smell something pleasurable? Or kid can't even get the sense of smell. So that in of itself, or even touching. I mean, talk about toddler years. When the kid touches the food, what does that information transmit to for them? So just to limit it and not have us all over, I want to limit to the taste in the mouth and how the child integrates that, and what that means in a bigger scale for the child, you know. And then going to enzymes, that's big. That's big. I personally have a journey with that. Um, I it's not knowing whether your child is able to digest what they're taking in. I'll give you a good example. My little one, my older one actually, um, when she was little, she had some intolerance to milk and citrus and potatoes. So we kind of like took her off it. The nutritionist, we actually started out, we went to a specialist, a nutritionist, who said we should take her off it. Just a fast, like a 6-month fast. And over time, it just became a food that she ate occasionally, um, and not quite often. But as she got older, she just slowly made her way away from any food that has fats in it, like She didn't want bacon. She didn't care too much for egg. Forget it. She doesn't. The older she got, she didn't want any part of eggs. And over time, that became something big as she's getting. I mean, she's 12 now. Definitely, you need some kind of fatty acids in your body as you begin to develop those hormones and that growth stage. Um, and fast forward, little did we know that all the time she said to us, I don't want bacon and I don't want eggs. We just thought she didn't like it, right? Just find something to replace it. Come to find out that no, that was our body. It wasn't that she couldn't eat it. It was the fact that our body was telling her those things are gonna hurt me because I don't have the enzymes to digest it. So after we went back to the nutritionist, mind you, at 3 years old, we went to the nutritionist. Fast forward, she's much older now. We went to the nutritionist, and the nutritionist said that she would need enzymes to be able to digest the fat. So that's why she's avoiding the food. So now when she eats, like she would eat egg, she has to eat it with the yolk because we need that, but she would have to take the enzyme to be able to digest it so that the body doesn't process it as something invasive or something that can hurt, you know. I throw that in because that enzyme component, we see that a lot. I mean, I talk to parents, and when I start therapy, I say, hey, how was the sleep today? Like with the COVID, what an access we have to parents when they're in school. I don't have that information. The teacher might just say to me, oh, they said, you know, um, Randy didn't sleep well tonight. So if you see a few behaviors there, just heads up. The teacher would say that. But I have the privilege of actually interacting with a parent, and you know, one a case in point, I call the parent and I say, "Oh, how is Randy today? How was sleep?" And the parent said to me, "Oh, she didn't sleep at all, and we don't know why." But we gave her melatonin, which, of course, we know that's like a band-aid effect. Um, and then the mom, we got into talking about food and things like that, and she just told me so many food that she wouldn't eat. And she's like, I don't know, she just never wanted those things, and they all just kind of lined up with foods that have, fats in it and protein, and she just didn't want any part of it. And well, luckily enough, we're able to refer the parents to a specialist who does this really well. That does this really well. Okay, let me move along to motor skills. Gross motor skills. One of the things that we know with gross motor skills is that when kids don't, when the motor skills of a child is compromised, whether they don't sit upright, their posture is off, we know that that would lead to dysfunctionality in terms of being able to use their fine motor skills. And also when it comes to nutrition. So a child who slouches, may not be able to take in food very well because the posture is off. When food comes, the kids just experience it as a discomfort. So we look at the sitting position of a child when they eat because it's going to facilitate better eating pattern. And then fine motor, of course, is the child able to pick up the food? Is the child able to hold the bottle? If the kids struggle in those areas also, the child must perceive that I'm clumsy, this is not pleasant, I'm not doing it. I guess those are the two major things we're looking at when it comes to gross motor skills and fine motor skills, to be able to get the food down. All right, we'll go to the next page, the next step. All right, so we've talked about the first one was physiology. We've talked about motor skills, which was very short, but all these things now present themselves as a behavior, can, if it's not taken care of. So as a parent, as a caregiver, what you want to look at as a child is when a child says they don't want to eat something. Let's say you present the food to the child. Did the child attempt to eat the food and now they stop eating it? Or the child completely turns away? What happened before the behavior? That's what that is. And then once you know what happened, you can play around. Was it the presentation of the food? Was it the texture of the food? We want kids to have a positive experience with mealtime. We don't want to force food down. We want to play around with food. A good example, One of the clients who had to eat, the doctor had recommended that they have milk, what is coconut milk, and kid won't take it. We had to find a way to change the taste, mix things up for the child to be able to get that down. So the whole point of the learned behavior is studying. You're like a detective. You want to see what happens when food is presented. Once you know what happens, you want to see what can you move around to give a more positive behavior. And then you want to see what the consequence of that is. The consequence would be after you change those things, that the kid take the food down, that the kid kick it away more, and you begin to work with those things in order. The goal of nutrition is really, let's get the food down so that the body can get the nutrient it needs. If anything falls apart in these three areas, physiology, motor skills, or learned behavior, we want to get the specialist in to take care of that. But one, we don't want to get to this part. We don't want to get to the learned behavior before we address this. And I think that's what this whole conversation is all about. Let's look at the case studies. So Tara is a 24-year-old girl who was seen by an OT due to concerns about language, which is very typical with the parents. They are concerned that my child is not talking. Mom is a physician. I throw that in because one would have thought that the fact that the mom is a physician, she would have a broader knowledge of, well, like she's a doctor. So she should know kids and when things are not typical. So the only concern was mom's like, she's not talking. So mom takes the kid to the pediatrician. Of course, the doctor said, we don't have enough words at 24-month-old. You may want to explore speech therapy. I came in contact with the mom, more of like a family friend as opposed to a client. And I said, how is feeding with Tara? Mom is like, oh no, she doesn't eat that much. But my mom just told me that, you know what, when she's hungry, she'll eat. And I said, how is that going? She's like, no, she just keeps not eating. I said, what is it? When you present the food, she kicks it away? Or she said, no, like if I give her fries, she'll put it in her mouth, she chew it a little bit, and then she just spit it out. So I said, bingo, she wants to eat. If she didn't want to eat, she wouldn't pick up the fries. But she can't eat because something is making it difficult. She takes the kid to a feeding therapy, not speech therapists now. There are some speech therapists that have that specialty with feeding, but feeding professionals, they have barrier of tests to figure out where the breakdown is. So luckily enough for her, she took Tara to, I think, somewhere in Queens, and they were able to do the test, and they realized that there was a lot going on with feeding. She was not able to rotary chew, hence with the fries that she spit it out. She was just very comfortable with puree because it was less effort, and she went through like 12 weeks of exercise, which was able to address that. Something interesting about Tara was later on, Tara went to preschool and she was having a lot of problems. She, they said she got under the table, she would hit wood chip and things like that. What had happened with Tara was, yes, she was eating, but she wasn't eating a variety of food. They just had very limited diet, like we have in my home. And then mom had reached out to me again and said, I'm having problems. She's having, literally, I kid you not, 14 incidents in preschool. Mom is an ER doctor. She's getting these text messages that Tara is on the floor. She's eating wood chips. She's taking off her clothes and everything. I said, okay, why don't you take her to a nutritionist? Let's see what's going crazy with Tara. And then when she took her to the nutritionist, who did a few tests, they were able to find out that Tara's like by the head of her, it's like they were able to test the CNS, the central nervous system, and they were able to find out that it was inflamed. And the inflammation was from a lot of toxic things, like just, a lot of the foods that we eat, that she had a lot of heavy metal, something like that. And they had to, walk mom through a lot of restricted diet. Fast forward, Tara is 5 years old now, in preschool. She has enough, or she's a typically growing child in of course, going into kindergarten. That's a life-changing story, I tell you, because if mom had not cut the feeding, addressed the nutrition, I don't know, she'll be in special ed. She will. She's not. Next case study. Adam. So this one is one of my clients at school, and gets all the services. Adam came to OT one day. He has tantrums, but on this particular day, he came in with check, some kind of snack like that. They all come in with dry snacks. So he comes in and, we started our typical OT session and he just went off. And I'm thinking, what happened? I tried all the sensory strategies you could possibly imagine, did everything for him, couldn't be comforted. And then I said to the teacher, and I said, what's going on? And the teacher expressed to me that he's been that all morning, that he often has this outburst, but today was just terrible. And they said they noticed that he ate something, I can't remember very well, and that just set him off. So I wrote a little referral to mom. Mom took him to a nutritionist. They found out that he couldn't digest. He can't digest. Maybe it's fat also. There was something he couldn't digest that they had to give him an enzyme for. But more so, there was a lot of food he could not have. And it wasn't the fact that he had a cold, because typically when they do this test, when the child has a cold, you might see a whole lot of things on the paper that the child is reacting to. I caution you, if you ever do this test or explore a nutritionist, if the kid is sick, don't have the test done, because you're going to see a lot of can't have this and can't have that. No, he was fine. He didn't have a cold, but there was a lot of things on that paper that was hurting him. And mom was able to address that. She was quick. She was able to address that. Now we had Adam coming into therapy, just ready to learn. I think that's my story. I talk a lot anyway. All right. So, any question?
Wow, Tosin, that was fantastic. Really, really great. The two cases that you shared at the end are really, really telling of the population that we work with. And I know my teachers who are here from Ghana probably can attest to that. Like you, when the students come in and, the parents want them to do magic, but it's something at home that's causing the problem.
Yeah.
So I think that what you shared here was really, really great. I think that it has provided us with the input that we need. I know that people may have questions. There was a couple of comments in the chat that I noticed. But what I first want to say thank you again, because your story, we can do a whole talk from what she just shared. I do a lot of conversation about biomedical interventions and similar to what you're sharing. So I was very happy that from an occupational therapist standpoint, you can bring this thing to it so that next time when we have a topic on the biomed, we can get deeper. Because there's a couple of commentaries that I have, but because of time, I won't be able to get into that too much. But I thought it was really powerful, those two stories that you shared. Because I always say, I'm a pharmacist, so I always say food is medicine.
Yeah.
I'm not a big fan of pills. I actually struggle with taking medications. So if I can fix something with food, I'd rather go there. And for those of you who know my personal story, Nicholas was one of those people that the food and the diet was a huge component, that we were on enzymes, we were on a whole bunch of stuff. So when you were talking about GERD, that's heartburn. He had it. He was like, I can do it. I can give you a classic case story about Nicholas and what we've had to do, and the GI, the poop. We were studying poops when he was 5 years old. And the diarrhea, alternating with constipation, the whole issue, the foods and textures, the whole 9 yards. We're a classic case. So I'm a big believer in how food has a huge impact in ability for the child to respond to therapy. So I want to put it out there that you did sensory integration, which is one of my absolutely favorite topic. I'm already picking up what your next topic is going to be, because you only talk about mouth. So I think what we can do for the future topics is to take each of the organs and just dissect that, because I think that's huge. Because just talking about mouth alone brought us into nutrition, which is a huge conversation. So I wanted to echo that you were right on point in terms of giving us a big understanding of the physiology and how physiology now translate into behaviors, and how that also now translate into this whole sensory disintegration thing and dysfunctionality, and how that also translate in the lack of ability for the child to learn. Which is ultimately what parents are wanting. They want their child to learn. They want their child to enjoy food. They want their child to eat. And oftentimes as parents, because we don't understand physiologically what's happening, we force the child to eat a particular food only for them to now develop an aversion to the food completely. Now, when they see it, they run for the hills. They're like, I don't want this food. and now you're choking it down in my throat, when in actuality, it could be very harmful and hurting. It hurts the child when they eat the food. So we can do a whole panel conversation about that the next time. I think there's so much that we can dive into that. I want to open it up to people. If they have questions, you may unmute your line and then ask Tosin a question. We have a few minutes and then we can take that before I release her. If anybody has a question that they want to ask.
There are some comments on the side, so I don't know if you just want me to go.
Yeah, so the comments are there. They had asked a question about over-the-counter versus doctor prescribing the iron and stuff like that. So I responded that, you can ask the doctor to check the levels, because I think that's important information to know, not just that, like magnesium, vitamin D, iron, those are all key things that doctors need to check. And I think Lilia was the one that was commenting a lot. You can see some of her commentary there, about her child not wanting to see the dentist. Any comments on that for her? She was asking about.
So the whole oral defensiveness can stem from a lot of things. It might not have been the fact that when the kid is little and mom or caregiver try to force feed the child, it's like, you're going to eat this. I'm guilty of that, I tell you.
The Bluetooth device is ready to pair.
So that might have been a reason for that. So you really want to get to the root of what really went wrong. I know my daughter, at 18 months, I did that. And now she's orally defensive. Anytime she goes to the dentist, she's so tense. That has to be something that has to be unlearned. So that's a journey on its own. The kid is 12, right?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, my 12-year-old is oral defensive because I force fed her. I'm sorry. That's more of a.
All right. There was a question also here about, what if my son eats too much and is not adding on weight? This is from another person to me directly.
So then the question is, what is the kid eating? You gotta look at that. Is it just all carbs?
Yeah.
You want to make sure that you have all the essential nutrients on the plate. And I used to think that was hard to do in terms of making sure that, or breakfast as is, once you set up a routine, it's so easy. I know food gets boring, I tell you. When you eat the same thing all the time, it may get boring. Then you can cheat. But it is very key that you actually have some kind of what goes on your plate for breakfast. So to answer your question, I say, what really is the kid eating? Because it's not about calories now, it's variety and the nutrients that goes in there. And is the kid really taking in those nutrients? So we have to find out if the child is really taking the nutrients, or it's not going in. So maybe the kid needs enzymes to help that happen. That you'd have to talk to your the practitioner about that, maybe pediatrician, or if you're privileged with a nutritionist, that might be something to look at. Do you have any other thing, Dr. G, to weigh in on that?
Yeah, no, I think you're right on point. I am a big proponent of proteins. A lot of our parents give more carbohydrates, big old bowl of rice with just a little piece of chicken or something like that. I know some of our kids are picky eaters. So sometimes when I do this conversation, I always say that what I used to do was I used to blend, make it into a smoothie, the vegetables and your fruits, and then even chicken. I bought this Vitamix blender, which liquefies food. And then that's what I used to use. So I'll get the nutrients in that way. So this way, if the child doesn't really eat food, I'm not worried because I got the nutrients in a way that he can actually absorb it. And so that's how we were able to get him to eat stuff. I know it's 1 o'clock is hit and it's 5 o'clock in Ghana time. We're going to we just posted a survey to everyone to please give us your feedback on today's topic, because we take your feedback very, very seriously in asking our speakers to come here and share with us. And we're recording this session as well too, so we will post it to every one of you who has signed on. So that's another incentive for you to do the survey. So Jenny will be I'll be posting that survey into our WhatsApp groups and out there, so you guys can please give us feedback. We need it. I know that Tosin would appreciate your feedback for her. She's hard on herself as a presenter, but she did a fantastic job. She's gonna go back and review her own presentation and say, oh, I should have done this, I should have done that. but you were talking from the top of your head pretty much, you know. So I, you know, if you can unmute yourself if you're here and just tell us one quick thing that you learned or something, if anybody's brave enough to share one thing that you think you learned or take away. Anybody want to share anything they took away from the conversation?
Yes, I think that I'm more when she feels the way she eats, and my main worries is about like she's not really chewing her food. She's really gonna get overweight because of not eating appropriate.
Okay. So like she said earlier, you know, you might want to consider seeing the nutritionist. You know, you're here in the United States, so it's helpful to have a feeding evaluation done with somebody who has done it. And like you use that a case study, you know, it could very well be something that's going on with the whole swallowing reflex part. So I think it's worth the investment.
Yeah, the nutrition is all about healthy, what to eat and for the nutrients, but I'm talking more about chewing your food and
How old is the kid?
she's 12 years old.
Okay. Dr. G, I mean, maybe something we could talk offline.
Yeah, we could talk, Lilia, we could talk offline. We could talk offline.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. Anybody else have any comments for her before we give her a big clap for a great job? Well done. Yeah, clap for yourself too.
Thank you.
No, you have a special way of clapping, Dr. G. I remember from last time.
Oh, is it, you mean the little plus thingy? Here.
I don't know, you have a special way of clapping. I don't know if it's supposed to be the Ghana way of clapping.
Oh, the Ghanaians have their way of clapping. Yeah, okay. Who's on here that can give her the clap? Come on. Rosie, you're on, right? You can give her, she wants the Ghana clap. Auntie Evelyn.
It's okay. It's okay. It's
Again. Okay. One more time.
That's okay.
There you go, right? Even better.
All right. It's a pleasure being here. I enjoy every minute spent.
So we want to say thank you again so much, Tosin, for that. You'll be back, right? You're going to come back again for us?
Yeah.
Sometime soon. You could do this in your sleep. I don't even know why this is so,
What?
you know? I say you can.
Oh, yeah. It's my everyday life. I know.
Exactly. It's your everyday life, and our families need it, right? You all agree that we need it? Was this helpful? Yes? Maybe? No?
Yes, very helpful.
Very helpful. Very helpful.
Very helpful.
Okay, good.
Thank
Because
you,
we want you guys to be feeling like you're doing something to help the children. And I know Tosin and I feel the same way, that when we see one child make progress, it's like you get so excited. You know, it's huge for us. So on that note, thank you guys again for joining us. Please, the survey is right there. You can click on that button before we get off. And you know, whatever medium you're using right now, you can click on that and give us your feedback, and we appreciate that. Okay. All right. So thank you, everyone.
Take care. Thank you very much.
Take care.
Dr. G, you want me to stay on?
Yeah, stay on that for a minute. Yeah, stay on for us. All right. So for the rest of the